what rap music is. And I know there's a common notion that, rap is very easy and like everyone can rap because it's just rhyming a couple of words, right? So I wrote something quickly for this purpose. It doesn't have too much meaning, so don't look for it. But just to exhibit how we rap and how we put rhymes together. So this is something that I wrote. So I'm going to rap this out for you. ये है हिप हॉप और रैप से है वफादारी, पर इससे पहले कि करूं मैं देना सलाह जारी, बोलना चाहूं मेरा कलम ही धर्म है, कई लोग जलन से गरम है देख के मेरी कलाकारी, कला भारी हमारी पर उनको ना समझ आएगी, सच्चाई कड़वी दवाई तो नेक्स्ट केमिस्ट भाई की, गॉट द रेस्ट वैक्स द बेस्ट बेट, प्रस्तुत में नेक्स्ट गेस्ट ऑन टेड एक्स MSIT. So now when you would say, okay, this is rap and it rhymes, yes. And you ask people, okay, so what's rhyming here? They'll probably just look at a few of the words in the end, like wafadari, jari, kari, aegi, bhaiki. But I sort of broke it down into all the rhymes that this little piece has, and broke it down into a color scheme. So the colors are actually matching the words that rhyme. So technically here, there are 8 rhyme schemes within 8 lines. And that is what rap is. So wafadari will actually rhyme with salah jari, which are 2 words rhyming with 1. Then kalam and dharam rhyme there. Jalan and garam rhyme there and rhyme up there. Then kalakari goes back and rhymes with salah jari. Then kala bhari hamari also rhymes with kalakari. And then samajh aayegi rhymes with bhai ki, IT. And so this is just to give you a sort of example of how complicated and how technical rap is, So most people might think, oh, rap is very easy, but it's not easy, right? And if they say that, please tell them to make this and show you, right? So this is what rap is, and it's very popular nowadays, and kids are listening to it. But I want to take you back a little bit, maybe 14 years. To a point where I started rapping. I started rapping when I was 14 years old. And it was more out of necessity because I had, there were circumstances that I moved to London for a few years. And in London at that time, they'd already got a hip hop scene. It was called grime in London, and they started, basically they were already rhyming. And so I was a kid from India that's moved to London, and I happened to go to a school that was pretty rough, so it was not like a nice polished school. So I had to find ways to fit into the school. And I didn't want to be this geeky stereotypical Indian kid who would get picked on because, they all Indians study and what the notion is. So I kind of, I always liked hip hop music, listening to it. So I thought, why not start writing a little bit and see. What that got me like almost immediate acceptance at that point, and all the cool kids in the school would be like, oh, Krishna is cool, Krishna raps, right? Became like a novelty because an Indian kid was rapping. So it went from there to then, me continuing. Then I came back to India. When I came back to India, there was no hip hop scene. People would laugh if you said, I rap. But they were like, what's rap, right? So from there, not being demotivated because I was still in school, I just sort of did it on my own. I got to college, and in college I met a couple of friends that also had the same interest. And that kind of led me to think that maybe, I can do something with them. At least there are a few people who can understand what I'm doing, because for art, like, you have to have an audience. I mean, I'm not here to make art only for myself, right? So like three, four people was good enough for me at that time. And I started rapping, and we started recording songs. And I started getting a little bit of buzz in Delhi. People used to have like Bluetooth phones then, and they used to share songs and stuff. But I'm from a Kashmiri Pandit family, and education is very important. So I had to go and do my postgraduate. I'm from Delhi University, and I had to go and do a postgraduate. So I went to St. Xavier's College in Bombay. And when I went there, I was sad because everything that I felt I had built up as a fan base, I had lost already because I was in a new city. I had no friends. Nobody knew who I was, So it was like, oh, do I have to start all over again? And I actually did start all over again. I went and I decided that I was influenced by American rap. That was the biggest thing. I decided that I will go to a label like they do in America and give them my demo CD and say, hey, I've made songs. Will you sign me, right? And this was maybe 2008, right? And I went there, so I somehow got a meeting with an A&R. A&R is artist and repertoire, and that's the person at labels who signs people. I went and met that person, and I gave them my CD, and I said, this is my CD and whatever. And I don't know what it was fate or whatever, that CD didn't work in his system at that time. So he said, give it to me, I'll listen to it later, and I'll get back to you. And a week passed, 2 weeks passed, and he wasn't calling me back. So I thought, maybe there's something wrong. I out of desperation, called him once and said, can you just give me any answer? And he said, oh, your songs sound too international. And at that point, I'm thinking, it's a good thing, but he's saying it like it's an insult, right? Your songs sound too international. I mean, I'm young, and if my songs sound international, you should sign me, right? But that was his justification to say that I could not be signed. So that was the first time that, I was disheartened, but I had a plan. I thought, you know what? This would probably be the end of it, where I think, oh, this cannot happen, right? But I thought, how can I make it happen? And I thought that I could probably see how these labels work and then, maybe pitch it in a new way to see, is there something that they're looking for that I don't have and that people don't have? So what I did was I desperately tried to get like an internship or anything I could do at a music label, just to understand the process of how people get signed and why I didn't get signed, right? I tried and I failed to the point that I had to move back from Bombay to Delhi. I was very sad because I didn't want to leave Bombay at that point. But somehow one evening I got this call from someone that I knew. An acquaintance, and they said, you know what, there's this label called Universal Music, and they have a vacancy. So do you want to try and you want to try going there and or trying? So I called them, and they said, yes, we have a vacancy. Could you come tomorrow? And I was in Delhi at that point. I didn't care. I got like a Tatkal ticket. I ran to Bombay. I went there. They gave me an internship, almost no money. I was like, it's fine. I'll do this. Within 3 months of working there, I had my song out on Universal Music, right? That was only because it was basically, I had a plan, right? And when I went in there, I I pushed everyone to think that hip hop was big at that moment, and it wasn't, right? But I made them believe that just so that I could get my song out. And from that point onwards, in 2010, came the point where I thought that, this rap stuff is a hobby, but it could be more. Because in 2010, if you guys remember, a lot of you would have been young, but there was the Commonwealth Games happening in Delhi. And we were basically the joke of the international media. Everything was going wrong. There were scams, people were sort of making fun of us in international news and stuff. And our government here had these like big joyful songs coming out with A.R. Rahman, where they had like balloons and all. And I was like, why are people happy, right? This is like the worst state that we've been in the international media, and we are happy, right? So there was this official anthem that A.R. Rahman sir had made at that point. So I made something called the unofficial CWG anthem. And it was a song called Kaisa Mera Desh, right? I made the song. I took a half day off from work. I shot the video for 2,000 rupees, edited it within 2 days, and I put it up. This is what the video looked like, really bad. But I put it up, and I slept, right? I uploaded it, and I went to sleep. And the next morning, this song was number 2 on YouTube at that time, in 2010, right? There had been no rap song that had gone viral at that point, but this was the first one. And I was almost in every mainline newspaper. Everything sort of happened so suddenly. I was taken aback. I was not prepared for it, right? That is a mistake. I was not prepared for it, right? So what happened next was I didn't have anything else. I was like, okay, I have this nice song that's out, but I don't have anything else. And at that point, I have a job and all of that. So I couldn't produce things fast enough, right? And the next song that I put was months later. But by that time, I had realized being issue-based was always a problem because your song died with the issue, right? So when people forgot about this, forgot about the CWG games, the song also was forgotten about, right? So I learned there that, there has to always be a balance between your message, but also the commercial value of what you're doing, right? From there on, I went on, I worked, and I started taking music more seriously though. And in 2012, I made the decision that I was not going to work anymore and I was going to do music full time, right? It was a hard decision to make, but I had to make it. I got a part-time job and I tried to do music on the side. It failed really badly because I was not able to. I was living in Bombay. Prices were, rent is expensive, everything is expensive. Doing a part-time job and trying to do music is very tough, right? I failed to the point where I had to again come back to Delhi, right? Because this is where my home is. So my parents were like, you're wasting money and time there, come back to Delhi. I came back to Delhi and I was going to go to Singapore because I'd got a job there. And I'd come to Delhi as an interim period. But somehow something happened and that got delayed and they said, it's going to happen next month. So you have this 1 month that basically I had nothing to do, but I was in Delhi. And but I had a friend that was working with Universal at that point, and he said, what? There's this chance that there could be a slot for you somewhere, right? And I'm like, okay. And I tell my parents, I'm here for a month. Just let me do music for a month. It's fine. Like I've been doing it so long, and I don't have anything to do anyway. I made 3 songs that month. And I went to Bombay with those 3 songs, just like I had in 2008. And I handed them the demo, but this time they said yes, right? And in 2013, I got signed to Universal Music for an album. And I released that album 2014, and my song, it was a song called Last Night, and it was number 5 on VH1. And that was, at that point, made me believe that there was potential in what I was doing, right? And from there, I kind of sort of went, I did my stuff, and then came the third sort of breaking point in my career where it was like, I was at a point where I had had a major label album out. I put 2 videos out. The second video, I remember, I made the video myself, and my label told me that we don't have a marketing budget for you anymore. And I was heartbroken because I had put in all my money into that video. And at that point, I was like, okay, you know what? This deal and all this stuff is not working for me. So I'm just not going to do this. I told the label that I had actually a falling out with the label. And I went back to doing a regular job after all of this, right? And I was deeply disheartened at what had happened and all of that. But I had also lost faith. I thought, I can't do this anymore. How long am I going to do this? How am I going to justify it? I can't keep telling my parents I'm getting older. There were all these thoughts were coming into my head. Until I think it was 2000 and my contract ran out. I was about 2016. My contract had finally run out. I was a free artist again, but I had made no music for 3 years, like absolutely nothing. I met a friend, and a friend told me, oh, you know what? Why don't you do your own music? Why don't you start your own label? And I looked at him and I'm like, I've got a job now and, I can't start a label and it doesn't make sense in India. He's like, it doesn't matter, give it a shot. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I sat down and I said, okay, Krishna, you're going to come back after 3 years. Nobody knows you anymore. The scene is forgotten. Hip-hop rappers, there are new rappers everywhere. They don't know you. What are you going to do? I sat for 1 or 1.5 months and I wrote one song. And that one song was called Vyanjan. I unfortunately can't play it for you here, otherwise I would have. And I wrote that song because I knew it was going to have an impact. And that is what I was saying, having a plan. This was my plan. My plan was, how do you come back after so long into the scene and still get noticed? I wrote a song called Vyanjan. Vyanjan basically is the Hindi alphabet. So I wrote the entire alphabet and I rhymed and I rapped the entire alphabet out instead of, how we say, ka say whatever, kha say whatever. I did like an entire rap, right? And that song became viral in 2016. It was shared by a lot of people. It was also shared by Raftar, who is obviously a big rapper. And it was like a big moment for me. And that kind of led me back onto this path. And it led me to the point where I did that song with Raftar, and today where I've done a movie, and I'm still doing this, right? So my point is, I did not give up at any sort of point and kept coming back and going and having the same plan, but just executing it differently to see how I'll get where I am, right? So that is a little bit of my story. I also want to discuss. Everyone wants to know, like, why are people listening to rap now, right? I think why the young people are more attracted to it. I think hip-hop and rap has a very intrinsic quality where it's very accessible, right? You don't need infrastructure, you don't need a lot of instruments, you don't need any of that, right? Because those things, in all honesty, come with a little bit of privilege. If you have privilege, if you have some money, you can attend classes, you can go to, you can learn singing, you can learn instruments and all of that. But for people who are sort of devoid of any of that privilege, hip-hop becomes, or rap becomes your instrument to voice your opinion, right? And that is how sort of hip-hop has grown in the West and is growing in India. You have kids that are coming out of, Mumbai slums, Delhi slums, that are becoming rappers because it is easy for them to vocalize their problems in sort of this art form, right? And it's cool, and it has rhythm, and you get attention. You know, it's all of these things together that makes that makes rap so appealing to the youth. And hip hop has, I think in India in India hip hop took some time to come here. I mean, hip hop is the biggest genre in the world right now, right? And it's been very big for 25 years. But in India, the difference was that when hip hop was coming in, it was English, right? It was coming from America. And who understands English in our country? Middle class, upper middle class, you know, people who are rich. That is the audience then, right? But it took hip hop to be localized for it to actually spread, right? So the approach, the hip hop grows from bottom to top, and it was coming all these years, it was top to bottom, right? So when this entire change happened and people started sort of localizing it, that's when like kids started picking it up and saying, okay, this can be my art form, right? And that's partly the reason why rap is big, and I think rap is going to be potentially the biggest genre in India as well, like it is in other countries, right? And just to so just to wrap up quickly, I think we need to now also, like as an audience, we need to embrace hip hop as well. I know a lot of older generation people think that it's not music and it's, you know, but the point is that hip hop and rap is creating opportunities in India for young people to be artists, and I think that is super important. So that's what I'll wrap with, and thank you so much, and no pun intended on the wrap with.